Welcome to The Explainer. All right, today we're going to dive into what is, without a doubt, the most complex and fascinating machine in the known universe, your brain. We're going to break down how it's built, piece by piece, as this amazing toolkit for survival.
Okay, so let's jump right in with a little thought experiment to get us started. We're going to zero in on just one single but absolutely critical ability your brain has, seeing things move.
I mean, really think about that for a second. What if your whole life wasn't like a movie, all fluid and continuous, but instead it was just a series of still photos flashing one after another, like you're living your entire life under a strobe light? How would you even manage?
Well, it would be almost impossible, right? Think about it. You've got the really big stuff, like safely crossing a busy street. But then there's the subtle stuff, like catching a friend's tiny little micro-expression, or even just pouring a glass of water without spilling it everywhere. It's not some kind of luxury feature. It's a core survival skill.
So you have to ask, if this is so vital, how is the brain actually built to handle it and, well, everything else? So let's do a quick tour of the basic hardware. And trust me, the numbers here are just staggering. First, just take a moment to appreciate the sheer scale of what we're talking about. You have something like 100 billion neurons packed inside your skull. That number it's just astronomical. It's an insane number of tiny processors all working together. But here's what's really wild. It's efficiency. Your brain pulls off these computational miracles, things no supercomputer on Earth can do yet, and it does it all using just 20 watts of power. That's less than a dim light bulb. Now, put that up against a supercomputer like IBM's Watson, which needs 1,000 times more energy to run. It's not even close. So if we zoom out, you can basically think of the brain in four main parts. You've got the brainstem and the cerebellum, kind of handling the basics and movement. Then there's the white matter, which is like all of the communication wiring. And all of that is wrapped up in this massive outer layer called the cortex. And as you can see here, it's the biggest chunk of the whole thing. And to give you a feel for just how much real estate that cortex takes up, check this out. That wrinkly, folded surface, that's where all the high-level stuff happens. Language, planning, your sense of self. And if you could carefully unfold it and lay it flat, it would be the size of a large pizza. Seriously, a large pizza. Okay, so now let's go a little deeper inside the brain, because this is where it gets really interesting. We're going to start with this one crucial hub that pretty much acts like a central station for all the information coming in from the outside world. You know, Nancy Wisher at MIT puts it perfectly. She says, to think of the thalamus as the grand central station of the brain. And it's so true. Almost everything you see, hear, and feel makes a stop right here before it gets sent off to the right department in the cortex to be processed. But, and this is a huge but, it is not just a passive relay station. This part is mind-blowing. There are 10 times more connections going back from the cortex to the thalamus than there are going in. So what does that mean? It means the cortex is constantly telling the thalamus what's important, what to pay attention to, and what to ignore. It's like a bouncer for your attention. Now let's keep going deeper and talk about two other absolutely critical parts of this inner system. These two structures really get at the heart of what makes us who we are, our memories and our emotions. First up, we've got the hippocampus. This little guy is our memory maker. Its job is to take the events of your life, your episodic memories, and help file them away for long-term storage. And we know just how essential it is because of some really tragic stories of people who've lost theirs. And this is where it gets really serious. Without a working hippocampus, your personal story, it can just be wiped clean. Take the famous case of patient HM. After a surgery, he could no longer form any new memories. Or Lonnie Sue Johnson, who lost her entire life's history after an infection. She couldn't remember anything about her past at all. Okay, so living right next door to the hippocampus is the amygdala. Fun fact, its name comes from the Greek word for almond, because that's pretty much its size and shape. But don't let the size fool you. This tiny thing has a huge job. It is the command center for our most basic survival emotions, especially fear. Now, if you want an easy way to remember what it does, just think of the 4 F's. The amygdala is in charge of those super primal, hardwired instincts: fighting a threat, fleeing from danger, feeding yourself, and mating. It's really the core of what keeps us, and any animal, going. And if you want proof, the evidence is just incredible. There's a patient known as SM who, due to a rare condition, is missing her amygdala on both sides of her brain. The result? She lives completely without fear. She can't feel it herself. She can't even recognize it on other people's faces. It just goes to show how indispensable this little almond-shaped region is. So that raises a big question. How do scientists actually prove that one specific little spot in the brain does one very specific job? Well, let's zoom in on a case study that's going to bring us right back to where we started: motion. Okay, so for a scientist to be able to point to a patch of brain and say, this part does this specific job, they have a really strict checklist. They have to prove it has a distinct function, a unique wiring pattern, kind of like its own fingerprint, and even a different physical cell structure than the areas right next to it. And the absolute classic textbook example of a brain region that checks all three of those boxes is a little patch in our visual system called Area MT. You can basically just think of it as the brain's dedicated, specialized motion detector. One of the cleanest ways we can actually see this in action is with fMRI brain scans. So you put someone in a scanner and you show them a screen full of moving dots. And when you do, boom, Area MT just lights up with activity. But the second those dots stop moving, the activity in that exact same spot just plummets. It's a beautiful, direct link. And this is what ties it all together. Right back to our first question. There's a famous case of a patient who had damage to precisely this area of her brain. And the result was this bizarre condition called achinotopsia, motion blindness. She literally couldn't see motion. Pouring coffee was a nightmare. Crossing the street was incredibly dangerous. It's powerful causal proof that this one little area is doing that one specific job. So there you have it. We've gone all the way from a universal survival problem, the simple need to see things move, down to a specific identifiable tool that the brain evolved to solve that exact problem. It really is a remarkable story of incredible scientific detective work. And all of this incredible science leaves us with one final, kind of tantalizing question. Okay, so we've pretty much found the where for motion, but what about everything else that makes us human? What will it look like when we find the specific maps in the brain for things like logic or creativity or even love? The journey to map our own minds, it's really just getting started.